For people with heart problems, life is something never taken for granted. But every year, thousands of patients of the Cardiac Center at Iowa Methodist are able to return to a normal schedule and a healthier lifestyle with the help of our skilled, caring staff. At Iowa Methodist, we treat our patients heart and soul.
This is CNN.
Now comes the hard part, making the transition from Little Rock to the White House, from candidate to president. What kind of people will staff a Clinton administration? What sorts of priorities and examples will they set? And how will this new administration deal with the many challenges that lie in wait? And welcome to Newsmaker Sunday. I'm Frank Sesno in Washington. Those questions for Clinton Transition Director Warren Christopher. A well-respected man with lots of experience, Christopher served as Deputy Secretary of State in the Carter administration, and most recently as chairman of the Independent Commission looking into the Los Angeles Police Department after the riots earlier this year.
From Washington, this is Newsmaker Sunday with Frank Sesno.
And also joining us from the governor's mansion, or just outside of it, in Little Rock, is our Wolf Blitzer, who will be participating in the questioning. Mr. Christopher, thanks very much for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, we won't give out any more addresses because presumably you've got plenty of resumes.
Yes, they're coming in large numbers.
Tell me something. You're heading the transition team. What is your first priority now?
Well, our first priority is to get the transition organized so it can be brisk and efficient. From that point forward, we will go first to look at structural issues to see if Governor Clinton's campaign commitments require some structural adjustments, and then we'll turn to the personnel issues and some of the policy issues that need to be addressed in this interregnum.
What does that mean, to see if his campaign commitments require structural adjustments?
Well, for example, as you know, one of the things that Governor Clinton emphasized was the need to have an economic security council in the White House to give higher visibility, more importance to domestic economic issues. And that will require probably some minor structural adjustments to give more emphasis, more priority to domestic economic issues within the White House. A second example is that Governor Clinton is committed to reducing the size of the White House. It's quite bloated in several respects now, according to the judgments that we have, and that will require some restructuring in order to carry out that commitment.
So the commitments will be carried out, but basically what you're doing is you're looking at how to reorganize the staffing.
Yes, that's correct.
Let me ask you something else. What is your time frame, or the governor's time frame, the president-elect's time frame, for starting to announce some of the key cabinet positions?
Well, we don't have a precise time frame, Frank. If you look back in history, most of the cabinet officers have been announced sometime in December, so I suppose we'll follow that same pattern. But what we are determined to do is to have a careful, comprehensive process modeled on the vice presidential selection process and do it right.
Now, we could play the name game for the rest of the half hour here, but we're not going to do that, with a couple of exceptions, yours being one of them. Your name was kicked around. At your news conference on Friday, you were asked if you would be in the cabinet, and you said that you didn't feel that was appropriate. But if you are asked, would you be in the cabinet?
Well, let me restate my position on that, if I may, Frank. I told Governor Clinton that I would assume that if I undertook this job, I would not be under consideration for major positions in the government. That seems the right thing to do to me. It seems to me to give a assurance of impartiality and objectivity to others in the process. I don't want people who are involved in this process to be saying or thinking that Christopher is looking out for his own interests. So I think it's right as a matter of principle for me not to be under consideration.
Well, does that mean that you wouldn't accept a job if asked?
Well, that question hasn't come up, and it's a long ways down the road. I think the best thing for people to know now is that I'm out of the process.
So you will be making recommendations, for example, for Secretary of State.
I'm sure that I'll be trying to gather information for Governor Clinton and Senator Gore on all the major posts. That's one of my principal tasks. In many ways, it's a modest task of just making sure they have all the right information to reach the best decision on those vitally important positions.
Got it. Well, it wouldn't be politics, I suppose, and it wouldn't be presidential politics in particular if there weren't some reports of early disarray. So let's go down to Wolf Blitzer, who's in Little Rock and who's been hearing these things up close, for him to pursue that with you. Wolf.
Thanks, Frank. Mr. Christopher, how serious is this dissension that we're reading about, hearing about, among the senior officials that helped get Governor Clinton elected?
Well, I think it's much overstated, Wolf, but if there was some disagreement during the course of this week, and maybe that would only be natural after the long campaign, it was certainly ended very quickly by Governor Clinton. He talked to me Thursday at noon when he was having a bowl of chicken soup and asked if I would consider undertaking this post. So I would say he showed a lot of decisiveness, a lot of willingness to step up and resolve issues of that kind. I would also want to add that it seems to me that the comments that I've seen in the press about Mickey Cantor are quite unfounded. He is a close friend and advisor of both Governor and Mrs. Clinton. He played a vital role in the campaign, and I think he was one of those who embraced the concept that this should be a different kind of a transition. In the past, as you know, presidents have usually turned to their campaign staffs to handle the transition. But for some time, political scientists have been urging that the incumbent president, especially of a different party, turn outside of his campaign staff, and President-elect Clinton has done that, and I hope it'll work out well.
How exactly do you plan on dividing up responsibilities between yourself and Vernon Jordan, who's this transition chairman who will be based in Washington?
Well, Vernon Jordan is chairman of the board of directors. There are now 6 directors, and probably there will be 2 or 3 more, and he will be acting as the chairman of that board, offering advice to me and to Governor Clinton and playing that traditional role. I'll have the day-to-day operating responsibility of organizing the staff in Little Rock and having it handled on a day-to-day basis. So he'll be very active in this transition process, but in the board, in the role somewhat comparable to the chairman of a board of a corporation.
I know you don't want to get into too many names, but 2 names that certainly do jump out at all of us are Al Gore and Hillary Clinton. Do you see Al Gore, for example, as vice president playing a more than traditional ceremonial role? And finally, what about Hillary Clinton? What will she be doing in this new administration?
Well, on Al Gore, I'm quite confident that Governor Clinton wants him to play an important role in the transition process. He's been in transition meetings at Governor Clinton's request. I've gone out on the campaign trail to brief him on the transitional process. We had a transitional planning process, and what's going on now, as you know, is a continuation of that. He was at a meeting at the mansion the other day, and so I think he'll be intimately involved in every aspect of the transition. With respect to Hillary Clinton, I think it's best for you to ask Governor Clinton about that. I've seen her only briefly as I've gone in and out of the mansion. She's greeted me, thanked me for the dislocation involved in this, but what her role will be will really be up to Governor Clinton to say.
Do you think it would be appropriate for her to take a formal position? There's been even speculation she could emerge as Attorney General.
I really would rather not comment on that, but I've seen no sign that that's likely to happen. It seems to me that she is playing the traditional role of the wife, a very active, very talented wife of a candidate. She was certainly extremely helpful toward the end of the campaign when Mr. Clinton's voice ran out. It's still in very bad shape, but but I would be quite surprised if she were to have a formal position in government. But there are others who can comment on that better than I.
Frank, how's your voice holding on?
Pretty well. If Mr. Christopher can stay with it, so can I. Mr. Christopher, let me come back and ask you something that's sort of on a philosophical level. The caliber of individual you're looking for and the sorts of plans that he or she may have for himself beyond. You're talking about new ethics codes, a new code of ethics that, for example, would bar someone from lobbying the government for 5 years after government service. Is that excessive, do you think? Is that going to make it harder to get the very best?
Well, Governor Clinton and Senator Gore are determined to get the very best people in this process, and as I say, we'll have a careful, deliberative process modeled on the vice presidential selection process, and I don't have any reason to have any doubt that we won't get outstanding people. And I think the commitments not to go back and lobby your department for a 5-year period are ones that will be readily accepted by the top people. I don't think that's been a serious problem in the past with people to keep the commitments that they were asked to make. So I cannot see that as imposing a barrier to getting outstanding people. In any event, although I think Governor Clinton is not ready to announce exactly what these strictures will be, the intention is to have the most stringent set of ethical rules ever imposed, both for the transition team itself as well as for people who serve in government.
Let me come back to something you said earlier when you were talking about recusing yourself from consideration in the cabinet so that you could be impartial. Why aren't Vernon Jordan and the others making similar recusals so that they can be seen as being above the fray?
Well, I distinguish the role of the board of directors from my role as the operating officer. I hope that they will feel eligible to serve. They'll be not quite as active in this process as I will be. I assume if it's like the vice presidential process that Governor Clinton will be asking me to contact some of the possible candidates, those people who are injured or interested, and I hope they won't be injured. And I think that it's just a lot more comfortable for me if they don't regard me as any kind of a competitor or somebody who's in the process. So I would distinguish the role of the board of directors, important as it is, from my own role.
Got it. Well, when we come back, we'll take a look at some international crises and some domestic challenges that confront you as you proceed with this transition process. We'll be right back.
Newsmaker Sunday is brought to you by GE. From plastics to financial services, we bring good things to life.
We'll be back after these messages. The rush is on for the incomparable new GE Profile refrigerator. The GE Profile is full of smart ideas, like a shelf that tucks away for tall things, and shelves that glide out so you can find things. It's called Smart Space Design. Smart ideas that let you put things in, take things out, and clean things up so quickly and easily that you'll never again miss your favorite commercials.
It takes 13 boxcars just to deliver one. It's very big. It's the fuselage of a 747. And since day one, Northrop has built every one of them. Every single one. After 25 years and almost 1,000 delivered to Boeing on time, you learn a lot about building big fuselages, about building a partnership, and about quality. Well, it's all made first class. Building wide bodies is a big business, and we plan on being in that business in a big way. Northrop's making advanced technology work.
In the daytime, serve New England, but drink French. Georges de Boeuf, puis say. At nighttime, mange Italian, but drink French. Georges de Boeuf, Côte de Rhône. Or anytime, savor the USA, but drink French. Georges de Boeuf, Beaujolais Village. Georges de Boeuf variety and value make any time a great time to be French. For your free guide to more great French wines, call 1-800-522-WINE.
It's a great time to be French.
On CNN tomorrow, paving the way to the Red Planet. How man is exploring Mars without leaving Earth. On Morning News. Then on Cryer and Company, X sparks controversy. Is Spike Lee doing the right thing? All tomorrow on CNN.
And welcome back to Newsmaker Sunday. I'm Frank Sesno. Our guest today, Warren Christopher, head of the Clinton transition team. Mr. Christopher, last week, Saddam Hussein, after George Bush's defeat, fired his pistol into the air in a remarkable display of bravado. He's visited the north of his country, seeming to be some sort of challenge to the UN forces and allied forces up in the north. Bill Clinton had a comment last week warning any adversary not to interpret this transition time as a time of weakness or anything. But you clearly are going to have some kind of challenge from Saddam Hussein. How do you handle that?
Well, first, Frank, I want to emphasize that we have only one president at a time in the country, and President Bush is president until the 20th of January. So our adversaries and our friends would do very well to respect that. It's an important part of the American tradition. Governor Clinton will be following foreign events very carefully, but except in the most unusual circumstances, he will not be making comments on foreign developments. And I don't think that anyone should pay too much attention to the histrionics in Iraq. That will all fall into place in due course, but at the present time, Governor Clinton is supportive of the actions being taken by the administration to carry out the sanctions, and I think it's important to emphasize, as Governor Clinton did, that we are not taking over the government until the 20th of January.
But do you anticipate an early challenge from Saddam Hussein once in office?
I suppose that a new president has to sweep his eye all around the landscape and ask himself what might happen. And probably the most unpredictable thing is likely to be on your doorstep. There's an old saying in the Foreign Service, though, that in some ways the most dangerous time is just after a success, and we're all taught to scan the horizon to see what else might be going on, and that's certainly what I'd be advising President-elect Clinton when he comes into office, to keep a very wary eye all the way around the horizon and to make certain that he responds to any challenges that come up during that period.
Okay, Wolf?
There's another challenge, of course, that's facing the Russian president, Boris Yeltsin. He seems to be in deep trouble, increasing economic problems. We know that Governor Clinton spoke to Boris Yeltsin this week. What was his message?
Well, there were primarily pleasantries. Governor Clinton did not intend to have a substantive discussion. He was simply returning calls of congratulations that have come into him. I would say that President-elect Clinton in an earlier time has been quite supportive of democracy in the Soviet Union, has been supportive, perhaps even before President Bush was, of giving aid to the Soviet Union to try to preserve the kind of stability there that would ensure that the nuclear weapons can remain under control. But up until January 20th, those will be the problems of President Bush's administration, and it certainly would be not appropriate for Governor Clinton to begin to try to play a role during this interregnum.
Frank?
Thanks, Wolf. Moving to the domestic side, Mr. Christopher, for just a moment here, there are some jitters, or there have been some jitters on Wall Street. Already interest rates have moved up a little bit over the long term in some anticipation that Governor Clinton could bring in some inflation. Again, last week he reassured the markets. But how heavily does that market uncertainty weigh in your mind as you go about selecting and looking at cabinet people?
Well, I want to emphasize the modesty and ministerial aspect of my role. I'll be trying to help Governor Clinton select the very best people that he possibly can. I would say one thing, and that is that I'll be urging Governor Clinton, when he selects his various cabinet officers and teams, to select them in terms of clusters, so he's able to find people who can work closely together and who will give the kind of reassurance not just to the markets, but to the American people that these important problems are going to be addressed. There are many audiences out there, and one of the keys to being president of the United States is to have a sensitivity and a consciousness of all the various audiences, and that's what putting together a government is involved. You know, America is different than many of our allies. When there's an election, you have a vice president and a president, but you don't have the rest of the cabinet, different from a parliamentary democracy. So this is a very important period in the United States. The selection of this new team will tell us an awful lot about the future of the Clinton-Gore administration.
There are some things that the new president would be able to do quickly. Let's go back down to Wolf, and Wolf, maybe you want to pursue that.
Well, there are a whole series of controversial decisions over 12 years that the Reagan-Bush administrations took involving abortions and fetal tissue research, homosexual serving in the military. Governor Clinton, once he becomes president, can reverse those decisions with a sweep of the pen. Do you think he's going to do that?
Well, one of our jobs, I think, will be to identify for him those things that can be changed by executive order, but that'll be an important decision for him to make, and he is the only one that can make decisions like that. They are executive decisions, and it would certainly be improper for me to try to predict which of those decisions he will change, but I think it's important for us. My job is to make sure that he's aware of the range of choices that he has when he comes into office on January 20th.
Mr. Christopher, one final question before we're almost out of time here. You were in government during part of Jimmy Carter's term, and you remember the so-called Georgia Mafia, and you were around for LBJ, you remember Beagle politics and all the rest. What's your impression of what Bill Clinton's imprint will be on Washington? Are we going to have saxophone playing on every street corner?
Well, my impression is that there will be an imprint of very high quality, and it'll be a national, diverse administration that'll look like America. But Governor Clinton has been planning for this, preparing for this for a long time, and I know that he strives to get the very highest quality, and I have some confidence, some real confidence that that'll be done.
Terrific. Warren Christopher, thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
And to Wolf Blitzer, thanks to you. And we'll be back with your turn on Newsmaker Sunday right after this.
Every 7 seconds of every day, someone is going somewhere with GE because over 200 of the world's airlines rely on the power of GE jet engines.
Tokyo and Kokomo and Marrakesh and Budapest and Sydney, Monte Carlo, San Diego, Santiago, Barcelona, Arizona, Bora Bora, Glacamora, and Siena and Vienna and New York and County Cork. GE in the air, we'll be there.
And since every year more and more people are going to more and more places, GE has developed the jet engine of the future, the GE90. More powerful, more fuel efficient, cleaner, and quieter than any jet engine ever made.
St. Petersburg in Uruguay and Malibu and Paraguay and Rome and Santa Fe and Cincinnati and LA, and there is Canada and Malaga and Rimini and Brindisi, New Delhi, Kansas City, and a town without a penny. GE in the air, we'll be there.
Coming every 7 seconds to an airport near you.
Once in your lifetime comes the magic of truly great music. Loved by millions around the world, these are the greatest romantic melodies of our time. Today's most memorable and relaxing hits. Piano by Candlelight. On 3 cassettes for only $19.99, or 2 compact discs for just $24.99.
To order Piano by Candlelight, use your credit card to call 1-800-431-7700 or send $19.99 for 3 cassettes or $24.99 for 2 compact discs plus $4 shipping and handling to Piano by Candlelight, P.O. Box 11066, Department 65, Chicago, Illinois 60611.
And now it's your turn on Newsmaker Sunday. Last week we asked for your comments on what the first priority should be for the newly elected president. Well, we hope Warren Christopher is listening carefully because our viewers have some definite advice for President-elect Bill Clinton. Louis Sen of Pomona, California writes, the first priority of the new president should be to take care of the American people first. More jobs, more funding for public education, and a national health care program. I believe that President Bill Clinton will start working on that after a short vacation. And Dr. A.M. Kajwal of Diamond Bar, California believes the 3 most important issues for the president are the deficit, the economy, and, yes, character. He also writes with this warning for the newly elected president: the American public and media should hold our next president's feet to the fire on these issues. If he fails to deliver in any of these areas, we the people have the duty to initiate a recall drive against him before his term is over. Well, if you have a question or a comment for today's guest, Clinton Transition Director Warren Christopher, we invite you to send them to Your Turn, CNN Newsmaker Sunday, 820 First Street Northeast, Washington, D.C. 20002, or fax your question to 404-681-3578. We'll try to catch up again with Mr. Christopher and broadcast his responses to your questions in a few weeks. That's it for this edition of Newsmaker Sunday. For all of us at the program, thanks for watching. I'm Frank Sesno.
For a transcript, send $5 to Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203, or call 1-303-831-9000.
To experience the true joy of cooking, it must be pursued with reckless abandon and total disregard for the inevitable splatters, spills, squirts, and the occasional splash. Fortunately, GE's new profile cooking appliances have ingenious quick clean features like lift-top ranges, self-cleaning ovens, easy wipe surfaces, and sealed burners. So they clean with just a wipe. GE's new profile appliances are so easy to clean, they take the joy of cooking to new heights.
If you're under a physician's care for high blood pressure, ulcers, or asthma, then your choice of a non-prescription pain reliever is especially important. For millions of people like you, the one doctors recommend most is Tylenol.
Gas pressure means pain and bloating. And the way doctors see it, your best choice for relief is Mylanta Gas. It has the best medicine for gas.
Hold it. I know the warden threw a bigger party than this in the county jail. I want to see the whole picture. Yeah, the king's got room to groove with Letterbox.
TNT's special Letterbox edition, Jailhouse Rock, Thursday.
I'm Ralph Wenge, College Coaches Corner, just ahead on CNN Weekend. Steve Koch joins us now with a look at the weekend weather.
And it's pretty slick up around the North Dakota region. Some icy roads this morning. Freezing rain has been the main culprit there, and we've gotten reports that a lot of cars are in the ditches because the roads obviously are not conducive to driving about. So be careful this morning in the northern plains. Some areas of snow in the northern Rockies and around the Great Lakes. Here is our forecast map for this Sunday afternoon. It shows the wintry mix to the north with high pressure firmly in control in the northeast. Matter of fact, over a good deal of the east. The southern temperatures in the southern states will begin to warm up over yesterday, and they'll even be warmer tomorrow. In the west, you're going to find your snow in the northern Rockies, Idaho, and Montana. How much? Oh, about 4 to 5 inches of snow anticipated there. Now, for tomorrow, as we look ahead into Monday, more snow around the upper Great Lakes into Canada in particular. Also around the northern Rockies states, Idaho, and Montana, and Wyoming, getting a good dusting of snow. They'll be opening the ski resorts before too terribly long if they haven't already. Good deal of the west, though, beginning to show some improving conditions, Oregon, Washington, and warm weather in the eastern half of the United States. So there you have it, laid out for you Sunday and Monday, your forecast.
Early winter. Thank you, Steve. College Coaches Corner coming up now as CNN Weekend continues.
What'll I do